The State of Real Estate with your host, Gerry Lantain.
Hi, welcome to the show. I'm your host, Gerry Lantain, and this is The State of Real Estate. Today we're going to be talking with Christopher Nagy from the Huntsville Town Hall Building Department. And we're going to find out about building permits and all sorts of interesting things that are involved with building permits. First, we're going to get to the market report, which is brought to you by the Lakeland Association of Realtors. Today, we're going to be comparing the February 2020 stats to the February 21 stats. And here we go. Now, the average price of homes, and I'll just give you a precluder to that. The average price of homes is a weird number to use because last February, were there more homes that sold in the $1 million bracket, or were there more homes that sold in the $300,000 bracket? So, giving a average price isn't the world's greatest measure of the market. But that being said, the average price of homes has gone up by 103% since last February, which means prices have virtually doubled. So when we talk about listings, new listings on the market, there are 11% less new listings available this February than last February. And then as far as homes for sale, any inventory out there, very, very low. Last year, we had 59% more homes on the market at this time. So there's a lot less homes on the market in 2021. And the actual sales, which is strangely enough, have gone up by 61%. So there are less homes on the market, but more buying being done. Now, days on the market. This is a good indicator of how the market is really, how hot it is. Last February, it took an average of 33 days to sell a home. This February, they're selling within 11 days. And the percentage of list price. So if I list a house at, say, $200,000, am I going to get $200,000? So that's the percentage of it. Right now, people are getting 105% of their asking price, which means most homes right now this February are selling over asking price. And that is a seller's market. It's a very difficult time to be a buyer, just like the last few weeks. And I don't think the market is going to calm down within the next couple of months. So if you're buying, you're going to be in a hard jam. If you're selling, it's one of the best times to sell. That's this week's market report. Welcome back to the show, and as promised, we are here with Chris Nagy from the Town of Huntsville. Chris, can you please tell me and the audience your title and job description and a way to reach you guys at the town if someone needs to talk about building permits?
Absolutely. So, as you pointed out, my name's Christopher Nagy, Chief Building Official with the Town of Huntsville. Right now, because we're working remotely, there's no in-contact meetings. However, you can give us a shout at 705-789-1751 and or email building@huntsville.ca.
All right, before we get into the meat and potatoes of this interview, I just want to ask you one question. Is COVID currently affecting the building permit process? Is there a closure on it right now, or are people allowed to come in with their building permits?
So as of the beginning of the year, we actually changed from a paper submittal to an online submittal through our website. So that ability is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And so you just go onto our website, you do a portal link to, it's called cloudpermit.ca. And through there, you can submit all of your building permits to Huntsville directly. And there is, it calculates out the fees and the type of permit and everything like that. So it's fairly user-friendly. So
I meant in relation to when COVID first started, they actually just said, we're not doing anything.
Exactly. Okay. So when COVID first started, you're absolutely right. It was more or less a shutdown in the industry. A couple weeks ago, it was a shutdown to any new applications. We can go ahead and do inspections. However, as of today, we can work business as usual and keep it going. So,
awesome. That's great. That's great for everybody. Okay. Building permits. Why do I need one?
So a building permit's actually regulated provincially through the Ontario Building Code. And basically any structure that's larger than 10 square meters that's either being built, being reconstructed, or has some repairs that need to occur would potentially require a building permit.
Okay.
Yep.
Do I need a building permit to fix up my basement? Say right now I have a concrete basement, but you know what? I want to put a bedroom down there. Do I need a permit to do that?
Yeah, so to finish off a basement, we do require a permit, especially if you're considering putting any bedrooms down in that location. Reason being is we're looking at exiting out of a building, so if there isn't a direct exit, then there's a minimum window size that's required out of the bedroom.
Sure. And this is for escape, egress, they call it, for fire?
Absolutely, yep.
Okay.
The other aspects that we're looking for is obviously early warning, being smoke alarms put in those rooms and outside of the rooms, heating sources, and to make sure that, if it's a forced air furnace, your ducts are actually installed properly. And then, the traditional means of egress through the building itself.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned the Ontario Building Code. I understand that. If someone's going to build something, it better be strong enough and to the standards of our environment. What's the difference between what the Ontario government mandates and what a municipality might mandate?
So like I said, the Ontario Building Code is provincial, so it should be enforced the same throughout the province. However, when it comes to municipal requirements, that's where you're getting into your zoning type. So what you can actually do on a property, how close those structures can be to property lines, and then overall lot coverage and things like that. Right. So that's regulated under the planning department in the town of Huntsville, but through the building process, we verify whatever's being submitted is meeting those criteria as well.
And then from township to township, these aren't uniform, the bylaws?
No, you're correct in that it is up to the council of the municipality to adopt the zoning bylaw, and therefore from municipality to municipality, it usually is different.
Okay, now we touched on this just a little bit ago. What types of projects do need permits?
So any project that has a building area of 10 square meters or more, or is attached to a structure that is larger than 10 square meters. So
10 square meters.
Yeah, sorry, 108 square feet for people like me.
Yeah, that's why I was just about to go, why 10 square meters?
And then that also, so a lot of the times we get into detached garages where someone builds the walls at the 108 square feet, but attaches a roof that actually has an overhang.
Oh, and that counts. So it's not the footprint.
Exactly. So it's any element of the structure that's larger than 10 square meters is when you need that building permit. So,
okay.
Yep.
Lot coverage. I want to ask you a question. I had a friend who had a boathouse, and they had stairs going down to the boathouse, like a decking, and they built a deck on top of the boathouse. Then they had to take away some of the stairs.
So, I would say that would differ from municipality to municipality. Okay. However, if
the issue was lot coverage.
Lot coverage, yeah. So traditionally in our zoning bylaw, it relates to roof structures for lot coverage, as well as any waterfront structures as well. If this particular access had larger decks going down to it and it wasn't a direct trail going down, then it may have counted to lot coverage. However, definitely something if you're considering, bring it into the town and chat with the planning department to make sure that you don't get caught on anything like that. So, yeah.
What problems happen when people don't get building permits?
So the biggest thing in the time that we usually find that there's been building going on without a permit is, when someone's usually hard pressed to actually sell a property, and we got to go in and close off a permit that may be in addition to a house, and then we get there and we notice, hey, there's a new garage and there's a larger bunkie. Deck and a bunkie and everything like that. So we do have the ability to take in building permits after the fact. However, you'd be into potentially hiring professionals and engineers to verify things such as, the foundation that's put on there unless you get it completely exposed, and it's more costly in the end to actually do that. So, we like to think that we're pretty open-minded and, a resource in the industry. So we encourage everybody to come in before you start your project, and we'll discuss whether it can happen or not. And if it can't, the avenues that you can go down to actually make it so that it could happen. So, yeah.
Now, specifically what you just mentioned happened to one of my clients. They bought a home and found out that the garage did not have a permit, or it wasn't closed anyway. And that became like a big shocker to the people buying. They were like, oh no, what'll happen? In two-case scenario, one, we go try and get that resolved, or what, like, is there a situation where that could be, you could ask for it to be removed?
So the biggest thing is if it doesn't meet the zoning criteria and you aren't able to achieve approval at, through a planning process, it could be deemed that it needs to be removed.
Wow.
However, from a building standpoint and from a planning standpoint, we'll always review what's going on the site and try and assist with compliance on the properties. Because at the end of the day, we're obviously here to try and make sure that all the buildings are safe and are constructed properly. And so we want to make sure that occurs.
Excellent. Okay. Chris, we're just going to break off for a couple of seconds. Minutes. We're going to go away to commercials. We'll be back in a little bit.
Sounds good.
We return. Christopher Nagy is here with me, and we're talking about building permits. Okay, so we discussed a few things about permits and about that. I want to talk now about the process. So let's just say, okay, I just bought a new home and I want to build a garage and I got a porch on the back, but I want to make it a screened-in porch.
Sure.
What's the process?
So our process, because they are two separate projects, we would be looking at two separate permits for those.
Okay.
So one being for the garage and one being for the Muskoka room, obviously. From our standpoint, again, like I pointed out earlier, all of our system is online through the portal. So we'd be looking at early stage. I would suggest anybody come in and chat with the planning department, or alternatively, all of our zoning criteria and zoning bylaw is through our website, and there is an interactive map that gives you all of the...
It's an excellent map. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that gives you all of the zonings on each individual property. And so that'll kind of give you the criteria of your setbacks and where you can position the garage and things like that. The other entity on why you want to come in and chat with us is if you're in a rural setting and you have a septic system, there's additional setbacks that we need to consider with accessory structures and things like that, right?
Okay.
So once you've kind of got that criteria, figured out exactly where you can put it on your property, then start chatting with a qualified designer for Ontario.
Like architecturally speaking?
Yeah, so an architect is, a highly qualified individual in Ontario. There's also, as a homeowner, you're able to do your own design. So if you have an idea of how to, draft up something, then you can submit the drawings that way. Or alternatively, there's qualified individuals with BCIN numbers, which is a building code identification number that's been issued to designers in Ontario to state that they can design to meet the building code criteria.
Would that include engineers?
It would include engineers. Again, engineers and architect are professional designers in the area.
Okay, so I've done that, came in, talked to you guys, found out where and how big my garage can be. I got an architect, he's drawn it all up. I'm walking in the front door and I want to start the process. How do I begin the application?
So now you don't technically need to step in the front door because we have that online portal. If you have your architect, he's actually able to start the process and get all the drawings and everything submitted to the town on your behalf. But basically, once that's occurred and the application has been submitted, we take some time with residential properties. It's up to 10 business days to review what you've submitted, and then after that time, if everything is in conformance with the Ontario Building Code, then we issue a permit. And within the
is there a pre-consultation fee or position? I know in severing and different things there is pre-consultation.
Yeah. So within the building department, your building permit fee covers off any pre-consultation as well as any future inspections.
So you have to know offhand what the fee is.
So it's based on $10 per thousand construction value.
Okay. So I'm going to build a garage. I figure it's going to be $15,000.
Yeah, so that permit would be $150.
Okay.
There is a minimum fee of $100. So let's say your Muskoka room is only going to cost you $8,000 to build. It would still be the minimum $100 permit. So,
fair enough.
Yeah. So then once the permit's been issued, then we start inspections, and upon issuance of the permit, you'll actually be given a list of the required inspections, and all those inspections and everything are requested through the online portal. So,
do you mind? Can you list out the different inspections that would be needed? And let's say, forget about the garage. We're generally a home. Even.
Yeah. So a home, we're obviously looking at everything below grade to above grade. So it would be at the time that your footings are ready and prior to pouring. The next inspection.
So the footings are far more important and far more superior than the actual foundation itself.
Yeah, so basically what happens is any of the structural loads that come through the structure itself, it gets distributed by the footing. So we want to make sure that it is on, proper bearing soil, that they are the proper size for, the loads that are coming down and everything like that.
So that's the very first inspection. Okay?
Exactly, yeah. And it's crucial that we're getting it before you actually pour concrete, because that's what we're seeing. We're seeing the soil type below the footings, right? Okay. So the next one is traditionally an underground plumbing inspection. So prior to the interior floor being poured, and if there's, basically if you're doing like a rough in for a washroom down in the basement or something along those lines, we want to look at that. And then framing inspection, again, completion of framing, insulation, air barrier.
Are those separate? An insulation, air barrier, are those two separate
so it all
inspections?
It all depends on how your designer has detailed the air barrier. In some cases, it's the what's known as house wrap or Tyvek on the outside. Mm-hmm. In other cases, it's your vapor barrier on the inside. Right. So, if it is an exterior air barrier, we're seeing that at framing stage. If it's an interior, we're obviously seeing it at insulation. Right. So
what's the difference between where you put that barrier? Does it matter?
It actually doesn't matter. It's just how it's properly detailed. So the biggest thing that matters is, like I said, how it's all installed on site and how it's all sealed and everything like that. So
next inspection.
Yeah. So next inspection, we're probably getting into HVAC and then interior plumbing, and then you're into your occupancy final.
So who does electric? So that's not a town concern?
It's not at the town level. It's actually at the Electrical Safety Authority.
Okay.
That's a separate permit that you need to pull for your
now
project.
I got a question. When does that need to be done before you can come back in?
Yeah. So what we're looking for from a town aspect is verification that the electrical has been finalized. Yep. So we won't grant an occupancy until we've received a final ESA approval. So
would that, in a matter of pattern, would that come before the insulation and vapor barrier?
It could come. Again, we don't do the electrical, so I don't know, when you have to call in a rough-in. Also, if you're using a certified electrician, there's sometimes, some leniency on how often they need to be called in and everything. But for more information, I'd suggest reaching out to Electrical Safety Authority and going from there. So, and then, like I said, we're kind of at that occupancy stage. So, we do want to make sure that we're getting verification that the water's potable, your services are all put in. So whether you're on septic or connected to municipal sewers, that's all done. And then, your that your heating system has been balanced through a balance report and a depressurization test. There is another crucial thing, and this only comes up, typically in the rule. If you do have a solid fueled appliance or a wood stove,
yes,
that does, in addition, need to be inspected by the town. And so we're looking at clearances around the unit and the chimney going through the roof. So,
is that different from a wet inspection?
It is, yeah. So a wet inspection is a certification, and they go in and verify the unit type to the chimney and everything like that. From our standpoint, we want to make sure that the framing clearances around everything are okay.
You mean on the interior of those?
And
okay.
on the interior, yeah. Right. So now it's always, and I believe kind of standard request from insurers that you get a wet cert.
Yeah.
But
that's a different ballgame.
Different ballgame.
Okay.
Yep.
So there are maybe 5 or 6 inspections that have to be passed by the town to complete occupancy.
Exactly. So there's about 5 or 6, and it can go up to as many as 12. But that's when you're getting into multi-res, fire separations, things like that.
Okay, well, you know what, Chris? We are coming real close to having to end the show, and there is still so much on this particular topic we could go on about. So what I'd like to do is invite you back at a later date. We can discuss some more about building and building permits, etc. And there are a myriad of other topics we can discuss.
Sounds great. So, yep. Happy to come back.
Absolutely. Yep. Thank you very much. It's been a great episode. Appreciate it. And I know it's going to give a lot of good information to the people listening out there. Thank you, Chris.
Perfect.
All right, take care and have a great week. Bye. Okay, so the tip of the week this week is building permits. If you plan to do any renovations in your home, inside, outside, structural, whatever it is, even a garden shed, if you need a permit for it, please get one. It is one of the most important things you can do when improving your home, because if you don't get permits for your property, when you go to sell it, that question may come up. And if you've done an addition to the side of your house that never got a permit, or a garage that was built and never had a permit, it only causes problems during the selling time. So, tip of the week is, no matter what, look and get building permits if you plan to do additions or renovations on your home. That's important. Take care, and we'll see you next week.
The State of Real Estate with your host, Gerry Lantain.